How's it going, everybody? Baggeroth here. So one of the kind of the nice surprises, and honestly one of the really good things announced in last week's Nintendo Direct, was a surprise game developed by Dotemu called Marvel Cosmic Invasion. So they've been kind of, Dotemu and Lizard Cube specifically, have been killing it with kind of beat 'em ups, kind of based off of old other IPs or other series that had beat 'em ups in the past, like Start of Streets Rage 4, Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, Shredder's Revenge, I think Power Rangers, Rita's Rewind, and I think there were some other ones as well. And we also have Ninja Gaiden Ragebound, which is developed by Dotemu, and then Shinobi Path of Vengeance, developed by Lizard Cube, coming out this later year as well. And now we have this too. And this is actually probably one of the ones I'm most excited for, just because I'm probably a bigger Marvel fan than I am like Teenage TMNT or like Power Rangers fan. And it seems like there's a lot of inspiration from kind of like, you know, the old Capcom fighting games and all that. And probably some of the old beat 'em ups as well, because I think that's part of the reason they're doing it, because we have had some like, we have had some old Marvel beat 'em ups with like X-Men, Punisher, etc. in the past. So now, of course, we know there's going to be 15 characters, and there are 7 confirmed, and we have 8 more spots. For this video, what I want to do is I kind of want to talk about who I think those spots are going to be, and then since I always love doing top 10 lists and all that of characters I want to see in a game, I'm going to tell you who I want those characters to be. I'm not going to do a separate video for that, just because, I mean, there's only 8 spots left. It's a 15 character roster. It's not huge. It is bigger for their past games, admittedly, but, you know, overall, I figured it would just be easier just to kind of tell you who I want in this as well. But first, I'll do who I think the characters are going to be. 3 like no-brainer ones that I think are going to be are Hulk, Thor, and Iron Man. With these 3 and then Captain America, you kind of have probably the 4 most iconic Avengers characters. I was thinking of putting Black Widow and Hawkeye on here as well, but I mean, I like both of them, but I think it would maybe be a little too much Avengers for such a short roster. And I think Hulk, Thor, and Iron Man are not arguably, they are a bigger deal, I think, to most people, and just more recognizable, and I think it'd have, you know, more explosive moveset potential. Maybe Black Widow and Hawkeye would be like potential DLC or something like that. Then these other 2 characters I think would be in the game would be Doctor Strange and Ghost Rider. Now, admittedly, I will say with Ghost Rider, there's definitely some of that hopium there. However, I think both of them are strong candidates because, first of all, they both represent kind of 2 parts of Marvel. They both represent like the more supernatural, like mystical side of Marvel. I also think they both have very unique movesets. You know, Doctor Strange has a lot of different magic. Ghost Rider has his chains. He uses a shotgun, his bike, all the fire attacks, things like that. I think they'd fit perfectly in this game. And, you know, they're both pretty recognizable. And again, usually the representatives for the mystical side of Marvel. And I think for what it's worth, both of them have been like Avengers too. Alright, then I think we're going to have a Fantastic Four representative. I don't know if we're going to get all 4 of them. I personally hope we don't get all 4 of them. But I think we'll at least get somebody from Fantastic Four. Now, who that will be, so I think if for some reason we don't get Hulk, we very well might get Thing. I personally would prefer Human Torch. However, I fear he might be a little similar, at least thematically, to like Nova, and especially if we have Ghost Rider in the game as well. That might be a little too much like fire and flying characters. So what I think might be I guess the safest, the smartest, and most functional choice would just be do Mr. Fantastic probably, because he's the leader. He'd be unique. He could also maybe even call them and maybe some attacks or something like that. I'm not sure how like the whole battle system works. I would say like maybe it would just be like one character, and like they all just come out and do different moves. But I guess because the game already kind of has a tag mechanic, I just don't know if they would do that. So we'll just say Fantastic Four rep, but if I had to pick one, it would probably be Mr. Fantastic. Next, then, I think would be a Guardians of the Galaxy representative, especially with kind of the more space-themed thing, and just because the Guardians of the Galaxy they're so iconic and big right now. I think we're gonna get at least one character from it. I mean, hopefully no more than one, but I would say, I think Gamora would be cooler and just work a bit better. What I guess they could do to kind of kill 2 birds with 1 stone, though, is to kind of have it be Groot and like have Rocket be on his shoulder. Like they're a dual character. I think we've already had games that have done that too. I feel like I just can't remember which games off the top of my head. So they'd kind of worked. You'd kill 2 birds with 1 stone. You'd have 2 Guardians of the Galaxy characters, and you know everybody likes Rocket and Groot. Then for the last character, this was probably the hardest one to decide. I was kind of stuck between Black Panther, Daredevil, Punisher, Scarlet Witch, Magneto, and Captain Marvel. I don't think Captain Marvel is going to be in because I think Quasar she basically is Captain Marvel for the most part. I'll be honest, she's the one character I had no idea who the hell she was when this game was announced. I actually think she looks a lot cooler than Captain Marvel, but I kind of feel like she might be kind of taking that spot from her in this. So she's probably not likely. Between the others, I guess probably my gut probably says Black Panther. I mean, I know like him and Wolverine could arguably be similar because of both these kind of like hand-to-hand guys that kind of fight like sort of animals, have very feral type skill sets. Not that I'm saying he'd be a clone of Wolverine, but I just think, because Black Panther is such a major popular character these days, and I'm sure he could be unique. I mean, I know like how Black Panther plays and like Marvel vs. Capcom Infinite is, I know people kind of called him Wolverine-like, but he was still pretty different from Wolverine. So I'll say with Black Panther, I would probably prefer Daredevil, Punisher, Scarlet Witch. Even Magneto, because I feel like we'd get another anti-hero character in this game and more X-Men. But I feel like Black Panther is just a safer pick. And not a bad pick by any means. Black Panther is awesome. Alright, so this is who I think the character roster will be. And I could definitely be wrong, especially because we have some deep cuts in this game already. That is something I like about this roster. It's not the super obvious characters. Again, this is just what I think is easier to expect. So now, who would I want to be the rest of the characters in this game? Okay, so first pick would be War Machine, because honestly, I like War Machine more than Iron Man, but this would be still kind of a way to have an Iron Man-like character in the game. Next would be Ghost Rider. I mean, he's one of my favorite Marvel characters, if not my favorite, so... And again, I've already given a good argument to why I think he could work totally fine in this game, and he'd represent a more mystical, supernatural side of Marvel, so there. And it's like, before people say like, oh, well, the villains in this game have nothing to do with the supernatural. Yeah, but Marvel Ultimate Alliance 3... the main villain was Thanos, and Ghost Rider and like Doctor Strange and them are still on that, so yeah. Next would be Gambit.
Woo, I'm about to make a name for myself here.
I'd personally like to see more X-Men in this game, especially because I feel like just kind of the rise they've been having with the movies, the TV show, and I feel like we just kind of associate like them more with kind of arcade games and all that, and I love Gambit, so let's put Gambit in. He's one of my favorite X-Men characters, probably favorite Marvel characters. Next, Psylocke, again, probably my favorite female character in all of Marvel, another X-Men. She'd work perfectly in this game. Her and Gambit, they could probably use some similar things that they did in, the Marvel vs. Capcom games, or maybe even Ultimate Alliance 3, things like that. Obviously, translated to sprite form. I don't think she's very likely, to be honest. I think Gambit would probably be more likely, but hey, I can dream. This is just what I want. Next up would be Daredevil. I mean, Daredevil's awesome. I think he's very relevant right now. I think he has enough tools and things like that where he could have a cool moveset. Probably wouldn't be the most flashiest, but I think could still be a cool moveset. Maybe he could be like very counter-based or something like that. And he'd represent more of the street level heroes, kind of like Spider-Man in a sense. And then this next spot, I had a hard time deciding between Punisher or Winter Soldier. I overall like Winter Soldier more, but I'm kind of in a more Punisher mood, probably because of Daredevil Born Again. And I think just because Punisher is just more... He's just more overall iconic. Like, I know Winter Soldier has definitely picked up a big following, just being in the MCU and all that. I mean, Punisher has as well, but Winter Soldier has just been in bigger things. And, I mean, they're both relevant right now. And we have Punisher, at least so far, in, briefly in Daredevil Born Again. And then Winter Soldier, he made a brief appearance in the Captain America movie, and he's going to be heavily featured in Thunderbolts. So I'm okay with either of them. I feel like, overall, maybe Punisher would probably be the better pick, though. Especially because of his history with like beat-em-up games. There's the Capcom Punisher beat-em-up game that we recently got in the Marvel Arcade Collection. Alright, next up will be Scarlet Witch, because I feel like Scarlet Witch kind of kills a few birds with one stone. She's an X-Men. She represents the more mystical side of Marvel. She was an Avenger. And hey, you know what? Another female character as well. And Scarlet Witch is just cool. I'd love to see what her moveset would be like in this kind of game. So I had a really hard time thinking of who the last pick would be. There's just so many characters, and I was trying not to pick like villains, or at the very least villains that, aren't like anti-heroes like Venom and Magneto. So I was kind of thinking of another deep cut pick, and I thought Angela. I mean, obviously I love Spawn, so, I know who Angela is, and, while I think her being an angel was cooler than being an Asgardian, I think she'd still really be cool. It'd just be really cool to kind of see her in like an actual like game that isn't like a mobile game or something like that, or a Lego game. Also, since if you notice, I don't have Thor on this list, this would be a good way to kind of represent Asgard in a way. Kind of how like Quasar is kind of maybe taking over for Captain Marvel. Angela could kind of take over for Thor. But yeah, that's who I'd like to see in the game. I don't really know how likely this list is. I mean, I'm kind of confident in like Ghost Rider, maybe Gambit, and maybe like Punisher, but otherwise I'm not super confident a lot of these characters getting in. But hopefully, you know, this game will be supportive of DLC. I mean, the other games have as well. I feel like it's just never like that long supported DLC. Maybe this game will be longer, who knows. So that's really it for this video. So of course you guys know the drill. Like the video if you like it, dislike it if you dislike it. Subscribe if you haven't already. And also, you know, let me know what you guys think in the comments below. What characters do you think are going to be in the game? Or what characters would you like to be in the game? Let me know. I'd love to hear your thoughts. And as always, thank you so much for checking out this video. Don't forget to check out my Discord in the description below and my socials. And another time, another place. Keep being awesome.